Okay, that was a lot to take in, and it was all interesting. So there's a lot to discuss now with all of that. I'm just gonna minimally touch on a few things, but there are two major points that I'm going to go a little further into, which is police training in youth. Let's see, I think there needs to be definitely more police accountability, more community oversight. I believe that the oversight needs to be done by someone, not just your average citizens, your average Joe, but someone who can understand a police officer's job more in depth. Because a lot of the stuff we're seeing right now is people not fully understanding what it is to be a police officer and everything like that. That's where a lot of the breakdown comes down to, especially with defunding the police, is people don't fully understand everything. They just want to jump on the bandwagon of something, or they just think they know based off of what they've seen, what they heard, especially what they watch on TV. Um, so definitely more police accountability with that. They need, I think, an impartial citizen, someone who thinks in the middle, not fully as a citizen, not fully as a police officer, but in the middle. Also, we need to find more ways to break down the barrier between the community and police. Find more ways to get the community to trust the police and the likability of police up. Currently, I like a lot of those videos going around of police officers doing things that are either fun or beneficial for the community, like officers mowing people's lawns because they're injured or old, or just because. Or I like the ones that I can't remember if it was Shaquille O'Neal was there first. I think it was a police officer was there, showed up to a disturbance call of some young kids playing basketball, and he started playing with them, and then brought, I think it was Shaquille O'Neal, over to play with them. Um, More things like that, because not all officers are bad, and they're just human beings like us. Um, let's see, demilitarizing the police. We don't need all these heavy armor, and we definitely don't need tanks and everything in every major city of America. Um, I think we have the military and the National Guard for that. I remember in one of my classes for undergrad, I went on a tour of the Tacoma Police Department and got to see all the different militarized vehicles and everything they could have, and it was a lot. Um, Especially considering we have JBLM right there. Do we need all of that in Tacoma for the police department? I don't think so. Um, we could be, reallocating those funds to something more beneficial, more helpful for the police officers. Um, let's see. And last thing for police officer, in regard to police officers, I should say, is the biggest one for me. I think there needs to be more training and education. More I think more officers should have proper training to be able to de-escalate situations without force or weaponry, especially if the 911 call is only about someone who is mentally ill or strung out on drugs. I also think the officers should have to do 4-year education to assist them in their job. I've had this argument with my family numerous times. I think all law enforcement should have to have a 4-year degree, whether that be in criminal justice, psychology, or sociology. Those Sociology and psychology are tied into criminology, so having an education background in any of those three would be beneficial, honestly. um, just as long as they have something. I think it's asinine, honestly, that the only profession that has the ability to take away anyone's life and or liberty does not have to have an education. um, I also think it would be beneficial because then they could have these officers who have these backgrounds be available at any time to assist in calls that do not require an arrest or use of a weapon, as the majority of calls do not. One article stated how one officer stated 90% of her calls were not in need of that. It's the same with Seattle, 90%. So if we had somebody who had those backgrounds available at any time who could show up, um, we wouldn't necessarily need to have social services there or anything else, which is hard, again, because as another article stated, we don't have those people available 24 hours a day to handle those situations. Well, if we had officers who had degrees in those fields, then they could handle that. And then officers could make sure on every shift in every area there's somebody who's got that type of degree to be able to assist, or somebody's close enough who could, go and assist the other officer if they don't. Let's see, finding incentives or grants for those officers to be able to attain this education would be a great thing. Also, it goes with something else in one of the articles about making the minimum age to be an officer at 25 rather than 21. I think that's great because, like he states, the brain is fully developed, and then they've got their education as well as their police officer training. If it takes a lawyer or somebody to be a lawyer 7 years, then why not that same amount of time to be a police officer? They're the ones who, again, have the ability to take away our life and or liberty. They should have an education. Let's see. I already said demilitarizing. Okay, moving on to the courts area of it. We need more incarceration alternatives. One of the articles talked about not sending all people to jail or prison unless they're dangerous, and I fully agree with that. Why do we need to send people to jail and prison over drug offenses? Why do we not get to the bottom and find out what we can do to help them? Whether that means that they're selling drugs to make ends meet, or they are addicted, whatever the situation, we as a society should be trying to figure out what we can do to help them and end the problem. And that can be said for many other offenses like prostitution and theft. Are they being in prostitution because they need to make ends meet? Or are they stealing because, again, they need to make ends meet? Or do they have some mental disorder, kleptomania, where they can't help themselves? Or same with prostitution. Different aspects. We can definitely help rather than just incarcerate. I think we need to get rid of mandatory minimums and give judges their discretion back. I liked how in the article on the First Step Act, I was following up on the First Step Act because I wanted to see how it was working, and one of the articles I read did say that something with the first, I can't remember it because I didn't highlight and everything, but when it came to the First Step Act, something about it granted more discretion to judges, and judges were jumping on that bandwagon to utilize that again to assist in cases. Let's see. Prosecutorial discretion. I'm not sure how that needs to be changed, but I think it does. Considering that they hold the most power after arrest, there needs to be some kind of change to prosecutorial discretion to ensure that it's not. There needs to be more give and take between the judge and the prosecution. It shouldn't all be in one hand. Definitely not. And let's see, the last thing, and it's the biggest one, is the youth of America. Constantly people say children are the future, blah, 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 blah. But do we treat them as such? Jacob actually is doing his on that, and he put that in his abstract, and that's what made me think of it. I don't think we do enough for the youth of America. School to prison pipeline, so many kids end up going straight from school to prison, and again, the majority being minorities or poor. So the biggest thing I can think of, let's see, I lost my train of thought. If we do more with children and adolescents, I think it would be drastically beneficial. Let's see. Okay, as a mother of a teenager who's not a deviant, but he doesn't like to attend school, especially right now during the pandemic, I can't even get him to log on to fake his attendance. He hasn't done an assignment this entire year, but he's not a bad kid. He doesn't go out and break the law or do anything like that. He just sits at home playing video games all day. But I also know he struggles with depression and bipolar, and he sees a therapist. Now, I bring this up because the school, even before the pandemic, constantly harassed me and him about his attendance and his homework, but they never really cared about getting to the bottom of what was wrong with him. They state that they do and that they want to help, but they don't. And I don't think it's necessarily the teachers. I know teachers that are just beyond caring and would do anything to help their students. We've seen that all over social media right now during this pandemic. Teachers going out of their way to do what they can to help. But it's a lot harder to be helpful without certain resources and the financial assistance that is needed. School administrations and the big people, big guns in the schools, only care about grades and attendance. That's it. That's all they care about. They don't care how you're feeling. They don't care what's going on in your personal life. They may seem like it, but they don't. Teachers, on the other hand, do. But again, they can't do as much because A, they're underpaid beyond all hell, and B, they don't have the resources. So if we spent more time focusing on the children and the adolescents of America, we wouldn't probably have to spend as much time focusing on all these different needs in the prisons and how we can reintegrate prisoners back into society and all of that. We could do more with the children. I mean, if you have somebody who's going to school and, like my kid, not paying attention, just shows up, why not see what you can do to help? Do more, then get to the bottom of it. And not necessarily me and my kid, I make sure he gets to his stuff, and I've been working with him, but other families who can't afford to get their kids into therapy, take them to therapy. And we see through all these different theories we've learned in other classes that this is where a lot of people become criminals, is in their adolescent years. They, for whatever it may be, if more attention was paid to that when they were children and in adolescence, I think that would be beyond beneficial. So yeah, I think that's about it. There was so much. I hope I didn't miss anything. If I did, I'll hopefully just comment on it on somebody else's post. Because again, that was a lot, but it was a very interesting set of reading. And I said it on my discussion post for last week, Professor. Yes, I think the articles on the defunding of the police should be for last week. And I really enjoyed your articles. They were nice. And that's it.